thing. But before we get into that, I promise it'll be an exciting conversation. It's not your traditional accounting, not your grandfather's accounting. We're going to talk about artificial intelligence. Before we do that, let's introduce Enrico, and I want to welcome Carlos Ponce, who's joining me from Mexico. Hey, Carlos. Looks like he's having a little technical difficulty. We'll get a hello from him later. Enrico, welcome to the show. Please introduce yourself a little bit. Let's get to know you.
Yeah, happy to. So Enrico Palmerino, I'm the CEO and founder of Botkeeper. Prior to Botkeeper, I'd founded a company that automated lighting analysis and design. And my biggest headache with that business was the accounting couldn't keep up. So that led me to what's been about an 8-year journey towards trying to eliminate accounting pain for a lot of other people like myself. We just launched at Botkeeper we just published a book, Botkeeper for Dummies. It's an accountant's guide on implementing and deploying AI and machine learning and other automated technologies in their practices.
Great. Welcome. Hey, welcome back, Carlos. Looks like you had a little glitch there.
Yes, good exactly. I'm sorry. Thank you.
So, Enrico, okay, let's talk about Botkeeper. So it sounded as though you were frustrated with something and gave birth to this idea. How did this come about? What is it that you guys do? Tell us a bit about the Botkeeper.
Yeah, so the goal behind Botkeeper was there was a problem that we're seeing in the market where the number of accountants or the supply of accountants was not meeting the demand for accounting services, and that supply demand gap was actually growing wider and wider every year because new candidates going out for accounting were continuing to decline. Existing accountants were retiring out of industry, but new business formation is growing exponentially. And so Botkeeper's premise was, can we unify the application stack that accountants work within? So average accounting firm to support and do bookkeeping for a client uses 6 to a dozen applications that don't talk to each other. They're siloed. It requires a lot of manual data entry. And if we could unify those applications and make it one coherent single pane of glass platform that had all that functionality in it, marry it with machine learning and AI, we could actually automate a lot of the processing, the accounting, the categorizations, the classifications, the reconciliations, and then even like the dashboards, reporting, analytics, et cetera, and doc storage. And that was the premise for Botkeeper. We started off by supporting a number of direct businesses to prove it out and get the data set and optimize the models. And then once we got a few hundred clients, we started bringing on accounting firms who have since rolled it out to their clients. And now we support over 100 accounting firms who use our platform to do the bookkeeping for their clients.
Wow, that's the ultimate validation, right? You put an accounting platform in place, and the big consulting, the big accounting firms adopt it. Good for you. Good for them too. So let's go right into the topic of the conversation today. Carlos, what's the topic that Enrico's chosen? Let's dig right in and let's do it.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Tulio, and thanks, Enrico, for being with us today. And Tulio, Enrico has chosen a topic that I'm sure that a lot of number crunchers out there, professionals, are going to love, and which is how accountants are supporting 65% more clients with AI. And he has named this topic the accounting alphabet. A is for artificial intelligence. So I really look forward to this one. So Enrico, first thing is, let me ask you something. Why did you choose this particular topic? Why did you think it was relevant for today's day and age? Thank you.
So I'm gonna quote something from Jody Padar, who's a colleague of mine at Botkeeper and a
Sure.
big influencer in the industry. So her saying is that 2025 is today. And the reason she says that is because historically accountants have been operating on hey, I have 5 years or 4 to 5 years to deploy technology or roll out improved systems in my accounting practice. And COVID has rapidly sped up or been the catalyst of, you don't have 4 or 5 years anymore. You need to be virtual. You need to be cloud now. You need to be automated because those headaches and challenges around hiring, retaining employees, meeting the demand of service offering have gotten harder with distractions at the home front and in a virtual world. And so these firms need to be looking first and foremost now at what do I, like, that 4 or 5 year window is a today window. So yeah, so that's why the first letter that you should be looking at if you're an accountant is artificial intelligence and how you're going to implement it in your practice.
So what are some
you.
of, yeah, thanks, Enrico. So let's go right into it. What are some of the key practices, if you will, that the platform enhances for the CFO office? What are like the key use cases that says, you know what, we need this? What's triggering that? Can you share with us some of the key things that the use cases that have enabled your clients and prospects to open themselves up to adopt this?
Yeah, so I think the value prop holds pretty true whether you're a direct company using Botkeeper or you're an accounting firm that's using Botkeeper for your clients. It's better, faster, cheaper. So in a day and age where, like right now with COVID, which is putting a lot of like financial duress or stress on a company, you need faster access to data than you ever needed it before. And the problem is if you're calling your accountant to get advice on what should you do, every minute they're on the phone talking with you and like reviewing stuff is a minute they're not spending doing the bookkeeping, which they need to do in order to get the data, which they need to then give you advice on or process to give you advice on. And so if you could have the two things happening simultaneously, that while they're talking to you, machines are automatically processing accounting, that's going to give faster data at the fingertips to make decisions. So that's important. The next aspect is like better data. So believe it or not, the accuracy of any company's accounting ranges between 85 and 95%. So not the most accurate books, and that's just like the standard across the industry. If you could have more accurate books, you could you'd remove the possibility of making bad decisions based on bad data. So Botkeeper averages a 99.99% accuracy on every transaction that we process. So much more accurate set of financials. And then cost. So in a land of COVID and a lot of businesses unfortunately got hit really hard and went out of business. Accountants lost maybe a number of their clients. There's more financial pressure on an accounting organization or even a business these days to cut costs, get lean, and minimize any losses. We tend to be anywhere from 50 to 75% less expensive than the traditional means by which you would do accounting. So your existing accounting department or your team of bookkeepers.
When you say, I'm sorry, Tulio, just real quick. When you say a traditional means of doing accounting, what are you? Can you please elaborate on that? I'm assuming that it's the human side of the equation, but if you can elaborate a little bit, and then I would ask you then, how do you think this particular aspect could be somehow either affected or transformed by AI or by technology?
Yeah, so I think traditionally you relied on an army of people doing a lot of manual data entry. If you survey accountants, they'll tell you that they spend at least 90% of their time processing accounting transactions and only 10% or less of their time actually reviewing the data to analyze it or give any sort of like advisor or consulting on it. Now, when you go to school to be an accountant, you're learning the exact opposite ratios. You're learning how to interpret the data and process it and advise, and then you get into the real world and you're like, I spend none of my time doing that. Now that manual entry, because it's so heavy as a percentage, is a pretty expensive thing to do, and the only way to get it done is with a lot of humans. And there's a lot of humans doing a very robotic task who would prefer to be doing a very human task like critical thinking and advisory. And the critical thinking and advisory is what their clients are demanding from them, but they can't give that to them until they do the processing. So it's this like catch 22. And Botkeeper allows the accountant to, if we can flip that ratio on its head, where you spend 10% of your time reviewing the work that Botkeeper fulfilled for you, and 90% of your time actually analyzing, processing, advising, consulting, supporting, doing customer service. It's a better engagement for your clients. It's a more profitable engagement. You can generate more revenue on it, and your accountants are a lot happier and likely to stay with your firm a lot longer.
Absolutely. Makes sense. Thank you, Enrico. I'm sorry,
Yeah,
Tulio.
so
Please, back to
so
you.
yeah, no, so accountants always, there's this rap about being a bean counter, right? Because of all the time spent bookkeeping the data, but a lot of times what you don't see is they're incredibly analytical, strategic minds that are behind a lot of accountants, right? So what I'm hearing is they'd probably rather spend their time using that strategic, quantitative mind to make recommendations, better business decisions, than doing the mundane bookkeeping process. But my question is, how does this improve the bookkeeping? Isn't that a manual thing? How is that changing how you do the bookkeeping?
So these days, a lot of those data sources actually are digitally accessible. So if like historically, or even so the way that bookkeeping is done today predominantly involves a business owner sending a bunch of bank statements to an accountant, who then goes through and enters or keys it in, or they connect like the bank to QuickBooks, and the accountant has to like look at every digital transaction and categorize and classify it manually accordingly, and then also perform a reconciliation, make or enter accruals. Because the data lives in digital form, and because there's you can, through volumes of data and patterns and recognition that machines are really good at doing, humans are good at doing it too. It's just it takes a human, years of seeing those patterns to like pick up on them. So like better accountants have likely supported more clients or have supported bigger clients and therefore seen more transactions. So it's the same sort of effect. It's just a machine, whereas a human has only the ability to retain so much data. A machine has the ability to retain like an infinite amount of data essentially, and see patterns across that data in a way that just humans can't. And so if you were to take those digital sources of data, say connect the banks, the credit cards, the payroll companies, the bill pay systems, like any sort of other digital document or information that you have, to Botkeeper, connect Botkeeper to your GL. You can basically run the data through Botkeeper. The machine learning can do the treatment or the accounting treatment of that data, and then reposit it into your final destination, which is your general ledger like QuickBooks or Xero. And now you allow the human to be reviewing the process data or the process bookkeeping, making some complicated entries or the month-end journal entries or adjustments or say like complicated prepaids or accruals, but really spend time looking at the data, maybe daily, because this is happening all the time. It's not month-end processing. Or at least at the end of the month, be looking at that and not be scrambling, trying to close the books only to like begin the rat race all over again and do it for the next month. So yeah, a lot of it's access to data, and it's the fact that like we're in a much more digital world these days that lends itself very favorably to machine learning and AI.
Okay, so digitize the flow of the data. Got it. Do as much as you can to remove the penny cash aspects of things, especially if a field organization. Give them credit cards, whatever you need to do to digitize it so you can get access to that data. And then the system synthesizes and makes it accessible. So you mentioned something about being able to then use it to do analytics on the data. Does this now provide the sort of CFO in a box, if you will? I hate to oversimplify like that, but essentially, if I'm running sales, I could do an analysis right on the data, or do I need to still go to a finance person who's going to put together the reports? What kind of speed? You talked about speed, right? You talked about accuracy. We dealt with that. Then you talk about speed. What kind of improvement do I get across departments in an organization by using this? Do I still have dependency in the finance department, or do I become empowered to do some stuff myself? How does it work?
I mean, I think you definitely empower people to be more self-service, but just like you would never say to a CFO, well, hey, now you've got Salesforce deployed and some great sales data, we don't need the VP of sales anymore. We're all good. So the human aspect of accounting is extremely important. The machines do a great job at processing high volume basic work, but the critical thinking really involves that individual, that CFO or accountant, who has seen a lot of scenarios, a lot of circumstances, and has seen unlike circumstances, but can draw the parallels between the two of them. Machine learning and AI is not good at drawing parallels between unlike data sets. So if you can give that CFO all the data, the P&L statements, the balance sheets, the cash flows, the process transactions, and you can let them go to town analyzing it and looking at the different ratios and picking up on the fact that, like, hey, if we continue down this trend, you know, we're not going to have the cash position that we need to buy the inventory we need to make the sales that we're expecting to hit and, you know, end of year. That's kind of the goal. That's where like the machine comes in play, is to just enable the human to do more. Like we have like a bunch of shirts printed that say my bot lets me be more human, is kind of like the way we think about it.
Yeah, I like it. I think there's often the misunderstanding that AI or software will replace certain people and functionality. It's not intended to do that, right? It's really intended to make them smarter and faster, and also to allow things that you normally couldn't do unless you had an army of people to do it, especially when you're doing multiple permutation and analysis.
And so I'm with an army of people, because you got inherent human error and
right.
Like just the throughput and the processing. AI should really stand for augmented intelligence, not artificial. Like you're not going to replace a human in the fullest capacity. Like you can just make.
I like that. It's the first time I ever hear of it. It's like augmented intelligence. It's definitely a very good substitute for artificial, and it makes him even more human. Has more human appeal, right?
I like it. I think we should push that and make an hashtag and change the artificial to augmented.
Exactly.
We're trying to change the definition of SaaS too, because I think like these days, like people don't want just another software product. They want service and they want a solution. So I think SaaS instead of software as a service should really stand for service as a software. You're delivering it and all the benefits of software, but you get the full human software combination.
I think you need to be calling the gardeners and all these other analyst groups and just push these changes. I think they're brilliant. So speaking of changes, I know one of the biggest challenges organizations have is managing their line of credit, specifically when it ties to managing inventory to sales and forecasts, right? That's a very manual intensive process that takes up a lot of time in figuring out how much orders we have coming in, book sales, inventory to push out product, and do we have the money to make this happen? And they're constantly juggling with the banks the lines of credit to make these things happen. Any hope in automating that with a technology like this, where a bank could open itself up to say, hey, we can trust the system to determine exactly when there's a need for an additional line of cash to support this purchase order that's come in? Any goals to enable some of those capabilities?
So I think like the tough thing is a lot of that then comes into you're starting to like breach or extend beyond what a machine's really good at doing and where like the human should come in, because just like with forecasting anything, you need the best forecasts are going to be done by people who have a really good understanding of like the market, like what's coming down the road, what prospects are we talking to that we think might potentially convert. How are we feeling about like the year, our overall traction, the marketing strategy that we have in place, like so on and so forth. And so I think like for me that like those are a lot of contextual data points that are qualitative and quantitative. Machine learning and AI is really only good at the quantitative aspect. So it's like, how do you give the person who wants to create the forecast as much data as possible and as organized a form as possible so that they can create that forecast as well as they ever could and as quickly as they ever could without having to like search or look up the data or be basing it on a lack of or inaccurate data. So it's when you start dealing with the complexities that you're describing, I think once you get into the complex, like you're back in human territory. Like if you're in basic and the complex problem of basic is simply quantity, and how do I organize or understand or process a sea of data? Okay, that's something complicated a machine can do, but it's really not complicated. It's just a mass quantity of basic.
I love how you've humanized the technology and how you refer to it. I think a lot of startups and companies in the AI space are making these lofty promises that the technology is going to automate everything, and essentially you can just show up at the office and have coffee all day and do nothing because the machine's doing it. And that could be the farthest thing from the truth. We're not talking about like AI 50 years from now, but I love the idea of augmenting intelligence and providing support for really bright, smart people who normally could figure this stuff out, but could do it now in much shorter time frames and in the speed necessary to maintain competitive edge. Speaking of humanizing the experience, is that also something that resonates across your company as well? Can tell us a little bit about how you're structured the business in terms of balancing, being in the high-tech space and also humanizing the experience. It sounds to me like you've really got your pulse on that. Can you share a little bit about your company, how you're structured internally as well?
Yeah, I think philosophically and culturally, our company mantra or belief is that we're not here to try to disrupt a sector. We're trying to enable it. So we're not trying to put accountants in the industry out of business. We're trying to, if anything, just make them better and let them do their jobs better. From a cultural standpoint, when we look at the Botkeeper organization, so one, we're big believers and proponents of family. So during COVID, we offer very, I think, flexible work environments or structures. We offer the ability to, we went straight virtual or digital as soon as we heard COVID was coming. So we didn't, wait until it had landed. And then when people were scrambling, we're like, all right, we think this is coming down the pike. Let's send everyone home full time and get rid of any potential or probability or possibility that we're going to have a problem. Can you? Sorry, that's my dog.
That's okay. No.
I was like, Carlos, did you get a dog? I'm hearing a dog in the background.
It's my dog in the background. He was quiet for
cool.
all day until I hopped on this.
He's like, I want to be heard.
Yeah, he's like, I want
no problem.
Enrico, it goes with the territory these days, so let's not worry about it. I got a bunch of kids here. I got a bunch of kids here too. So.
Exactly, it's all good. Don't worry about it.
So culturally, I mean, we try to encourage a very, I'd say, flexible, understandable, realistic, fun, work environment. I think where there should be a good, I'd say a good medium between working really hard, but then also being able to relax and enjoy other aspects of life. Work isn't the purpose. Work is something that you may really be passionate about or like. I hope that we hire people who are all very passionate about what we're doing at Botkeeper. But there's a lot more to life than showing up and building the company that we're building today. So we encourage people to be involved in those aspects of life. We do a lot of we have a lot of fun, I think, throughout the organization. My daughter does it's called Weekly Monday Mornings with Monroe. So she's a 2-year-old, and we record her doing a joke and sending it out to the company. But I think culturally we hire diversely. So we've got employees in 26 states and 3 countries, and we've got employees of, I think, from a gender standpoint, we're pretty evenly spread across the organization. We've tried to, I think, always not be the typical Silicon Valley tech startup perceptive.
I like it. I like it.
Put my dog down so that he stops going nuts.
Oh, that's okay. There's a first for every show. Oh, it's cute. Looks like a little poodle.
Yeah, it's a little Shih Tzu poodle.
Well, listen, that sounds fantastic. Really, that resonates with us a great deal, and people who are watching who might consider being part of that should definitely check out your company. I want to congratulate you in humanizing not only the software, but also the experience that the employees and people have. And that's really what it's about, right? I mean, we've had some major changes culturally in the past 7 months worldwide. I've had to adopt to working in environments. For some of us, working remote has been our life for years. For many, it's something new. And a lot of organizations have had to figure out how to make that happen. And having the technology that helps us become smarter and faster and more accurate in our jobs, that's really what it's about, right? It's not about replacing people. So I want to congratulate you for doing that. So what's next for you? What's in your roadmap as we come up with, as we wrap up? What's in your roadmap that you're excited about? Anything that's like a leapfrog moment that you guys are looking forward to?
We're excited for the launch of our new platform. So we're rolling out like a version 2 of the Botkeeper platform that's going to come with I think some more robust feature sets and functionality for streamlining task workflows, bill pay workflows, and give I think take the machine human interaction and have it feel even more natural. So not so much like okay, I did my part and I'm handing it off to the machine to do or execute the next step of the equation, and then I'm going to wait for it to like process and send it back to me. But now there'll be like a lot of this, like say real-time trade-offs, or you'll be seeing things that like when you click into something, it's starting to like prompt you or suggest that you do certain things, and you don't have to check off that you completed the task because it already knows you did. And just I think a simplified workflow and use that feels inherently more human than I think most software applications.
Well, it's interesting. In some of the older generation, we used to think accounting was like a safe bet in terms of a career choice, right? But not a lot of young people going for accounting. So if you think accounting isn't cool or tech, you're wrong, because according to the conversation today with this technology, with artificial intelligence, you can make accounting fun and cool and exciting because you remove the mundane stuff from the process, and you can actually use your intelligence to analyze and come up with smart decisions.
We need more
Enrico,
accountants. So if you're thinking about going, please go into the industry. It is a very safe industry because there's not nearly enough people entering it right now.
It's amazing. It's not. That's why I'm mentioning it's the people are not going that way because it's not cool. But you're making it cool. So changing an industry. While you didn't want to disrupt, you're definitely making a change and enabling a change. So congratulations. We're wrapping up. One last question for you. Building this business, your journey as an entrepreneur. You said it's an 8-year-long journey. Any lessons you've learned about yourself that you'd like to share with other potential entrepreneurs who are trying to build their own business as
well? I think for me, the more I've continued to surround myself with just really bright individuals and not feel like I have to be in total control and like hand it off and let other really intelligent people do what they do best, the better. It's just like things just happen easier. And I think as an entrepreneur, you inherently like think you're like a control freak out of the gate. And you're uncomfortable with taking like your idea, your business, and bringing others into it, or like delegating or handing off, and not just delegating, but like totally trusting them to like do the delegating and everything. The more that I've done that, and the more that I've elevated, even like anytime I've been searching for someone in the org, if I was going to search for someone like with this experience for, now I'm like, to hell with that. I want someone that's like, been to the moon and back, and has that ridiculous resume, and has seen like so many different things, because it just makes life so much easier. Like they have a playbook already, they can run it, and I learn so much from them, and it makes like as the company keeps growing and we become bigger, and we have to like be more protocol-y around updates or improvements that we make, because you don't want to break things when you have as many clients as we do. The learning is still there from the people around you, and that's invigorating.
Well, great advice. My philosophy is always don't hire people you can control and coach. Hire people that will make you better.
Yes.
It will challenge you to be better. So congratulations. That's a wrap for today. Carlos, what do we got coming up next week? Stay with us as we go off the air, Enrico, but what do we got coming up next week?
Absolutely, Tulio. And well, Enrico, thank you so much for being here, having been with us. Next week, we're going to have, again, Tulio, another great week full of awesome interviews, very interesting interviews about a bunch of other tech-related topics. The first one is on Tuesday. We're going to be speaking with Vivian Lim, the CEO of Bees. That's with a Z, Bees. I hope I pronounced it correctly. And this is an automated marketing platform. And it's the topic is networking during COVID. Do not leave money on the table. So that's, I look forward to that one in particular. And then on Wednesday, we'll be speaking with William Santana, the CEO of Nightscope, which is a company that designs, builds, and deploys robots called autonomous data machines. and to use in monitoring crimes in malls and parking lots and neighborhoods and things like that. And finally, on Thursday, the topic is using Netflix and Disney to cure vision disorders. This is with Ran Yam from Novasight, and he's CEO of Novasight. So as you can see, Tulio, we have a week full of great interviews with very relevant, very interesting tech-related topics for next week, right here on Dojo Live, 1 p.m. Pacific.
I'm looking forward to that third one because I want to ask him how he came up with such an awesome hook. That's a brilliant mind you definitely want to talk to. And don't forget Monday, the recap show, as we recap this week's show in 10 minutes, Monday at 1 p.m. Pacific. Thanks for joining us, everyone. Have a great weekend and stay safe.